What couldn't you believe you had to explain to another adult?
Mr.Reddit.
That women do not all have their period at the beginning of the month all around the world at the same time. That women do not all have their period at the beginning of the month all around the world at the same time. I was picking up Italian liras one time, 1999 pre-euros, from a bank in Tennessee. The teller brought me the envelope. When I opened it to count the money, she looked at me with total surprise and asked, "Do other countries have different money?" A bank teller. My husband had to explain to a coworker that she couldn't take a train from the US to Europe. She insisted she had to because she didn't like flying. How a shower curtain works. I kept finding the bathroom floor absolutely soaked after my roommate showered. I gently asked her to make sure the shower curtain was fully closed. Keeps happening. Finally, I figure out she's been drawing it closed with the bottom fully outside the tub. Okay. Sigh. So I draw her a diagram, showing how if you put the bottom of the curtain inside the tub, then the water routes back into the tub rather than on the floor. She was like, "Oh, you and your science." Then next time she comes out wrapped in a towel. Which way does the curtain go again? We were both graduate students in science PhD programs. I had to explain to my mom that my daughter was growing in my uterus and not my stomach, so the hot sauce on my burrito wasn't going to cause her skin burns. I also explained if she were growing in my stomach would certainly cause way worse burns than hot sauce. It was then that I understood why the school nurse had to explain to me in 5th grade why I kept bleeding through my pants every month at school, and not my mom. When I worked at a doctor's clinic, I had a lady on the phone wanting to book an appointment to have her flu shot. She specifically asked it to be a telephone appointment. I could not believe that I had to explain to her that we cannot inject her through the phone. That driving north meant the whole trip was uphill. I laughed at her until I realized she meant it, ended up laughing at myself cause there's no way I was going to explain it to her. That you have to have a printer to print things at home. Tech support, and I wish I was lying.
The difference between Chinese and Japanese people. When I was a kid, other kids told me Japanese eyes slanted up and Chinese slanted down. Then our friend from Korea moved here and just blew that whole paradigm right out of the water. Used to work at a daycare. One day a little mouse entered the premises and caused an uproar until we caught and released it in the playground. After the whole ordeal, one of my colleagues, who was the dumbest person I've ever met, said, "Let's hope it didn't lay eggs anywhere." I was too stunned to speak and just stared at her, while my room leader/friend said, in the most done with this shit way, "Mice don't lay eggs, eat," and walked off. Edit. I love how so many people in these replies are trying to find a different interpretation of what she must have meant, or say that she must have been joking, laughing face, but no, unfortunately I have to tell you she was 100% of the opinion that mice lay eggs because she even doubled down about it later. It was at work. I had to explain that if they didn't do their job, me or the next shift had to. I had a lengthy discussion with a coworker who suggested an efficiency which was essentially passing her work to another employee. I explained over and over that the work still needs to be done by someone. She didn't back down until our boss agreed with me. Why a room below sea level on a cruise ship would not have a balcony? It would have to have a screen door. So fish can't get in. That dogs are artificially bred, and that there aren't wild golden retrievers, wild chihuahuas, and wild Maltese just running about that we're catching to make into pets. We cannot hold period blood in. OMG, my partner literally thought this, and I had to explain to him that women cannot, in fact, do Kegels so intense we form a vacuum seal on our vaginas to keep our menstrual flow in.
A girl was staying with my family and had brought her dog. The dog got hurt at one point, freak accident, that required surgery on a back leg and the cone of shame to be worn. At one point, she started cutting off a bit of the cone. Me, careful, cut too much, and he'll be able to reach his stitches. Her, that's alright. He'll be able to keep them clean. I had to explain to her, very slowly, that the purpose of the cone was to keep him from licking the stitches and pulling them out. She honestly thought the cone was just an aesthetic thing. North is not whichever way you're facing. It is if you're standing on the South Pole. Africa is a continent and not a country. I had a former coworker point to Africa on a map and ask if it was Puerto Rico. It was clearly labeled Africa, as well as labeling all of the countries within it. She was born, raised, and just moved a few years prior from Puerto Rico. I worked tech support for an internet provider a few years back. A woman calls in, complaining her Wi-Fi isn't working. Go through the normal troubleshooting questions. What's your device? How are you connected? And finally, what can you see on your screen? Crazy woman, CW, it's black. Me, how do you mean? Are you getting errors? CW, the whole screen is black. Me, have you turned the laptop on? CW, I can't. Me. Why not? CW, I've lost the charging cable. Me, okay. Do you have another device I can help you connect with? Maybe a tablet or your phone? CW, no, you need to get the laptop reconnected. Me, can you go and buy another charging cable? CW, no, you need to send me one. Me, we don't supply them. Also, we didn't supply you with your laptop. We just provide internet. CW, yes, and now you're not providing me internet, so you need to fix it. 40 minutes this went on, as my team around me stared in incoherent disbelief that this woman couldn't understand why her internet provider couldn't connect Wi-Fi to a computer with no power. I remember hanging up the phone and putting myself on break. My manager looked at me and told me to take a walk, while barely hiding her unrestrained giggles. Having worked in IT help desk, the first question we always asked was, is your laptop, desktop, printer powered on? Which usually made them mad. Many times, it was not on. That no matter how much you might want to put a camel pattern on your walls, you, not the paint, have to determine what that pattern looks like, and you will also have to purchase multiple cans of paint tinted differently because camo doesn't come out of a can that way. There's an ice cream store lady who posts about people having this problem with milkshakes. They'll get a multicolored ice cream as the flavor, then be upset that the colors all mixed together. She specifically warns children and she's sympathetic to them. But she's rightfully baffled when an adult is sad that the colors all mix up. Having worked at an ice cream place and having been asked for rum raisin, but without the rum, by an adult, I feel her pain. That each country does not, in fact, have its own sun. That New Zealand, the country we were both born, raised, and living in, is not in Europe. Added to answer most of your questions, her reasoning is that when she fills out forms and has to tick a box for her ethnicity, she ticks New Zealand European. She thought that option was there because we are European and therefore in Europe. I had to explain to her that just means SHE is of European descent. That her ancestors lived in Europe. I also had to explain that not every New Zealander ticks that box. That there are other ethnicities here too. Birthdays. I work in IT, and when we have new employees start, their default password is their birthday using the 2-digit month, day, and year format. I cannot tell you how many adults get confused about this. I often have to explain that January is 01, February is 02, etc. Just yesterday I had a 40-something start counting on her fingers trying to figure out what October was before typing in the wrong password 3 times. I finally just had to do it for her. This was not an isolated incident. I'd say it happens with at least a third of new employees, all adults. That the red brake lights in his rear view mirror aren't police. He hated driving at night for that reason. Volunteered in a charity shop. Lady came to the counter with a top and asked if I could look in the back for one of the same color but a larger size. Tried to explain we don't do that because we're a charity shop. She insisted that other shops, like HM, have done that for her. Wouldn't take no for an answer. Eventually I just went in the back for a few minutes, made a cup of tea for a coworker, and came out saying we don't have any. She got mad at that too. Once, when I was working in a thrift store, a woman found a skirt and a shirt with the same pattern. The skirt was, let's say $5 and the shirt $3. She was very adamant that the skirt should also be $3 because they were the same pattern. I said no, sorry, those are the prices. When she complained, I said maybe we should sell both the items for $5 each instead. She didn't like that. Eventually she left. I don't remember if she bought the items or not. Very peculiar. I work in retail. Had just rang up a customer for a pair of shoes, total came to $97. 19, he gave me a $100 bill, I gave him his change receipt. His wife comes in later to return them, I give her the $97. 19, she goes no. My husband gave you a $100 bill, I want the 100 back. I said he did, but his total was only $97. 19, so I gave him change back. She persists, she wants her $100 back. I said, ma'am, your husband only paid $97.19, so that is what you get back when you return the item. This fucking woman. He gave you $100, I want the $100 back. This wasn't some sort of quick change scam, this woman was just dumb as a box of rocks. I told her if you'd like to give me the $2.81 in change I gave him, I'd be happy to give you a $100 bill. She kept arguing with me for a minute, long enough for other people in line to speak up, tell her how stupid she was. LMAO eventually gave up, left with her $97. 19. When you save a file on Windows, the save window actually lets you save the file into a particular folder. You don't have to go into your recent items to find it and then move it to where you want it to be saved. This person had been working an office job at a computer for more than 5 years at that point. The difference between the number 0 and the letter O when giving them a temporary password so they could get back into their account, the only thing I could think of was, well, one is a letter and one is a number, and it still didn't click for them? That the Aztecs and Incans are not interchangeable, they were in completely different parts of the Americas, and that neither of them built the Nazca lines. But especially not the Aztecs, who were not in fucking Peru. This person kept trying to tell me it was up to interpretation, like no it's not. It's geography. A friend asked me how the sun knows the clocks have changed when we have daylight savings. A Coinstar machine. I was working at a grocery store at the time and one was at the front of the store. Walking by I saw a woman struggling and asked if she needed help. She said that she accidentally hit the Spanish instead of English button on the start screen. I started to walk her through the directions to use it. Feed your coins into the hopper and it will count and sort them, and at the end take your receipt to customer service and get your cash. She was very annoyed with me at this point and exclaimed, "But I don't want Spanish money." Sigh.